I want to tell you an amazing story. So, there was a young lady named Susie, and she used to go shop by the mom and pop grocery store right next to her house. And she really got to know the lady at the counter, the old lady named Lillian. And, Susie was an old-fashioned type of girl. She didn't want to go to the new supermarket. She wanted to give a little bit of business to the nice lady Lillian. And she got that personal love, and more just out of loyalty than out of anything else. Every day she would shop, and the two became friends. One day, the Italian grandmother Lillian says, Susie, I got a great idea. Why don't you date my grandson? I got an amazing grandson. So Susie said, she blushed, and she said, well, I'm only 16. How am I going to go? And Lillian was a bit embarrassed. 16? You're so mature. She said, yeah, people tell me that, maybe because I'm always helping my mom out. But Susie didn't want to make Grandma Lillian feel bad. So I said, you know what? In 2 years, my mom says I can date. We'll take a rain check. We'll see if your grandson's still available. And indeed, every time that young Susie would come into the store, Grandma Lillian would bug her a little bit. And so it was until that day came and she turned 18. But unfortunately, Grandma Lillian was no longer there because she had moved to a retirement home in Arizona and eventually had actually passed on to the next world. Meanwhile, Susie too, moved on. She went to school, eventually to grad school. She was pursuing her career, and she met an amazing guy named Chris. And they were enjoying their amazing time together. And one day, she took Chris back to meet her family. And they're walking around, and they're looking at the store that once was Lillian's store, but unfortunately it was now replaced by another fancy supermarket. And of course, Susie sighed and said, so sad. I used to have a friend who used to be in this supermarket, and I really miss her. And Chris said, really? Well, that's pretty crazy because I never mentioned this, but I actually had a grandma, and she used to live right around here. And Susie says, a grandma around here? And you can probably put two and two together. Indeed, Chris's grandmother was Lillian. And so on their way back to their engagement party, they stopped over in Arizona by the gravesite of that amazing Grandma Lillian, who seemed somehow to have made a Shidduch way before anyone could have known about it, and somehow was still making that Shidduch behind the scenes in the heavens. So the Gemara says that 40 days before you're born is decreed this girl to that girl. And in this story, we see it with our own eyes. May you have a fabulous day.